Greetings, geeks! We are back with another Wizards Wednesday rewind. We got new comics to talk about. We hit the shops yesterday. Now we're going to tell you all about them. I'm Adam.
And I'm Mike.
All right, so we put up the vote. We had some options, but you guys went all Marvel. I mean, it was kind of hard to beat Marvel in this case. This was their week. Some big titles, some big names. I guess we'll find out what you thought. The first one I think we got to talk about is a continuation. Because previously there was a Marvel event that was kicking off, and we put it up on the vote, and that's what everybody wanted to hear us talk about. That was Blood Hunt, but now we got Blood Hunt 2. And the difference was, this is what we realized, there's this whole explicit version, and then there's the standard version. So Mike, this time around, did you grab the explicit? Is that what you read, or did you go for the standard again?
My shop didn't have the explicit, so I just keep getting the
Really?
standard. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, because there were so many copies, like the previous time and this time. For
Yep.
me, I was just like, they really are even. They're figuring, it's half and half.
No, I think they did one. I think I like the one extra. My shop is pretty much all pre-orders, and then she'll buy
Mhm.
extra of a few books.
I see.
And luckily, the voters are voting on books that she's ordering extras of because it's pretty much pre-order. So I'm really lucky that it's worked out that way.
Yeah.
Um,
So what was your initial thought, where we left off before? At this point, I don't think it's a spoiler because the book's been out for a week or so. But Blade reveals himself, right? That he's the mastermind behind this vampire invasion, and he slices Doctor Strange in half, except in your version, he
it
just
was a
stabbed him.
stab.
So how
Yeah.
did it bring it up? Like how, because it is addressed in this issue, but I see like a lot of entrails and guts. They show his severed body several times in
No,
my version.
it
So
was just a repeat of the stabbing, I believe. So okay, Adam, I maybe it's because I'm on lack of sleep, but this book did not do anything for me. This felt like for a second issue, I was like, this is filler again. Like we're back to filler. We now know the big bad is Blade. Give us a hint as to why. I don't know who the protagonist is. Who do I care about? I don't care why this is happening. I do really like Doctor Strange as a ghost. You know I'm partial to ghosts. I love a good ghost companion. I think it's cool that Doctor Strange is living in that. What is it called when he's
the Sanctum
temporal?
Sanctorum.
No, when he's
Oh,
like in his
oh,
temporal
his
form
astral
or
form. Yeah.
his astral form. I think that's really cool. But I'm like, okay, we got this new Avengers team. It's like Blade's daughter, Captain Marvel. I'm like, who cares? What? Give me some. I just paid so much money for this damn book. It's like $8 Canadian. I'm
Wow.
angry. I am angry at
Yeah,
him.
well, and I felt the same way. I was just like, Blade is just generic supervillain. He's got lackeys, and he's like, "Go do this thing for me. I want this. Bring me the girl." No, no, no. And you're just like, Blade, why? Why did you turn bad? I assume that's going to be the big reveal, and that it's not him. Like, it's got to be somebody
That's.
like who inhabited Blade, or whatever.
But how am I, as a reader, supposed to connect to anything if I don't know why? I don't know, like what. What good guy do I care about? Is it Blade's daughter? Is she gonna help save the day? Like nothing about this book. And then we won't. I guess we won't reveal the ending. But I could care less about the final page.
Yeah, like
It's like
last time it was just like that was the mind
it was
bender.
cool. Yeah,
This time it was basically an homage to a famous Batman villain image, is what I saw in that final picture. That's what it felt like to me.
what is it? Can you tell me
Yeah,
what is
the
it?
Killing Joke. That's like that famous Brian
Oh,
Boland, like with all the ha 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 ha
yeah.
ha ha behind him and all that.
But I guess I didn't notice that. Yeah, I guess you're right. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I was. Do
the
you
only
think
thing the only thing I thought was cool was that there was like, okay, you have like this new group of villains, vampire villains that are facing this offshoot of the Avengers, this, B team Avengers that are there, and they have a battle. And what they manage to do is the bad guys obviously they need the darkness. So the Avengers break a hole through this shell
The
that is
darkness.
blocking out the sun. So sunlight comes in. And so they have to, the bad guys have to retreat because they're getting burned by the sun. They shoot one of them up into space to be burned literally by the sun, like, so there was some cool little twists in there with the action. But what I realized is I had forgotten, because I haven't read a big company-wide event in so long, is that the main books so rarely do anything for the story. It's always in the tie-in issues.
Mm.
And there'll be
Is
like one
that
or two tie-in issues that I always feel like, oh, this was the breakout story. This was the thing that everybody connects to. But it's like in the main books, like even like Civil War and stuff, it's like, okay, like the big thing is somebody dies, or this or that. But then you want to if you want a real story, if you want to feel connected to characters, it's going to be in the tie-in issues where it's dedicated to the single ones, because they have to jump around and just give you a tease of each team of characters that are now like Dracula and Blade's daughter. Okay, they're in her book, and it's like, okay, you want the rest, go find that book and decide which one you like best.
it's just not for me. I see. I don't know. I disagree with you a bit. Like
Hmm.
Civil War, I enjoyed the main title. I read Frontline. Maybe I'm mixing up like, because I know in Frontline, was it Speedball is the
Yeah,
cause of the
as
whole situation,
penance.
and he
Yeah,
becomes Penance in Frontline, right?
yeah.
So maybe you're right. By the end of the issue, I was like, should I have been reading Miles Morales? Maybe would I have felt like, oh, would it have been a more of an aha moment? For me, it just felt so empty. From
Well,
like,
and I
yes,
think if you had at least the explicit version, there'd be gore for
there'd
you.
be cool gore. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's not, and I do appreciate that the Avengers win a battle. It just feels really. I guess it makes sense. We're in Act Two now. They have their first battle and they win. That's what this issue is. If you just want a battle issue, go grab this book. There's no other reason why you should grab it. The explicit version sounds pretty cool though.
Although,
Maybe,
and I know what they're teasing for the third issue, this variation on a classic character now that we're
yeah.
gonna get. It's gonna be an action figure someday. It's gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what they're banking on. They're like, oh, everybody's gonna want this version, and they're gonna buy. There'll be T-shirts. There'll be whatever. With
I don't know.
cosplayers, of course, at cons.
I still feel ripped off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Marvel. I'm sorry. I like the last one a lot. I'm hoping issue three things turn around.
All right, but our next one here, I'm very curious because this is another double-sized issue. This is a thing, this is kind of an anniversary, but not really. And that was Amazing Spider-Man 50 is what everybody voted for. Now, because it's a milestone of sorts, I saw that they have the legacy numbering right below the 50. I was like, oh, you guys, come
What
on.
was the issue? What did it say? What was the legacy
The
number again?
legacy is 944.
944. Yeah, because they kept referencing it throughout it like 930, issue 935 or
Which
929.
I
Yeah.
liked seeing those boxes pop up and be like, if you want the actual explanation of what happened here, what happened here. But they had a lot of variant covers in issue 50. They want to make a big deal about it. So of course I grabbed the black costume variant cover.
You
Did your
didn't want
store
the
not have any?
No, they had the Capullo. I bought the Capullo one. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is by an artist that I don't recognize, but I was just like, if I'm gonna go all out and spend, what was this,
It
$10?
was
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was so expensive here in Canada. I think it was like 14.
My goodness. Oh.
It's like a trade paperback. And then when I blew through it, I was like, we are picking different books next week.
I
Adam.
know it might have to be the reader's choice here instead of the listener's choice. But so the main story in this, because it is a main story continuing what in setting up some things, and then there are a bunch of backup stories. So the main story here, having not read this book in ever, like to try to catch up here, I was just like, this is bizarre. So something to do with a spear that Craven the Hunter had that absorbed Peter Parker's sins, and then Norman Osborn decided because Norman Osborn's sins were also absorbed into this thing, so he became good. He's no longer bad.
Yeah, he became the Gold Goblin, and he's been a good guy as the Gold Goblin. I have random amazing. I buy it every once in a while just to see, and I have the issue where he is the Gold Goblin at some point. So yeah, he's been a good guy.
Which is that's a good twist. It's the mechanism to get there because then I'm like, so, but there's an entity that inhabited Peter Parker. It seems like the sins have like become sentient. Like that's the part I don't quite get.
But then also, it sounds like both Norman and Peter have been good, but there's some they're cracking. Like something is starting to show. They said, right? Like that's
Yeah.
how they introduced the book.
Well, and meanwhile, there's this thing called the living brain, which is this
I
giant
love
green
it.
brain
I,
in a lab. And then it is like shooting out this message Peter Parker is not Spider Man. And that's like the big cryptic thing. Everybody's trying to figure out what that means. But
yeah.
then at the very end, the brain opens up and it comes out, it's reformed itself as a robot, which is basically like green. Like to me, it looks
Brainiac.
like yeah, for green robot Brainiac, but it's like Metallo and Brainiac combined into a new Marvel character, which is strange. Um,
Okay.
but were you invested in that story at all? Like, what did you think of the characterization of Spider-Man fighting Norman Osborn, who again gets infected, I
Okay,
guess?
so like yeah, I get so just to let's just spoil it a bit.
Yeah.
Drop off now if you really don't want to be spoiled, but I don't think you're missing anything. The brain causes I still don't really understand what happened there, but Norman, it is revealed that Norman is still the Green Goblin, or he's reverted back to the Green Goblin. And behind the Gold Goblin's costume, he had the Green Goblin costume hiding. First, I want to mention one thing. Uh, Ed McGuinness does the art on this, and I haven't seen Ed McGuinness do art in a while, and I kind of loved it. Like I loved seeing his chunky style. There were pages where I didn't feel like classic Ed
I was gonna
McGuinness.
say it's very different than his 90s stuff, I
Yeah,
would
but
say, yeah.
there's the odd point where I was like, oh, that's classic McGuinness there. So I enjoyed that. It felt really cheesy to me. The whole like the brain, everything felt so hokey. Like it felt like an Amazing Friends episode or something. I just was not, I was thrown off. I can't believe this is like the big 50th,
Well,
$10
the
issue.
thing that was interesting, I don't know how far this is gonna go, like, because then Norman releases this gas that takes away
His
Peter's powers.
powers.
So now he
Yeah.
doesn't have powers. But then you find out that like Spider-Man's like, no, I planned it all along. I knew this was gonna happen, so I created a gas that takes away your powers. And you're just like, come on. Like so they have a fist fight with no powers. But that was the cheesiest part to me. I'm like,
Okay, so
you're not Batman, Peter. Come on.
yeah, I've already forgotten how it ends. I read it last night and I'm like, wait, how did it end again? So how does it end? What's the final the because it's like a big what will happen, but I may
Oh,
just
you know what? I just realized I was mixing. Well, it's actually ends almost the same way as the Blood Hunt. That's why I was conflating them. The
yeah,
end
that's
of
why
this is the Killing Joke homage because
oh
Peter basically he goes crazy. And
yeah, that's what I okay,
yeah,
you had me confused because but the ending of Blood Hunt is one person's head, but it's you know,
it's almost the same though. If you look
it's
at it, the
almost
mask is ripped and like the mouth
yes.
is exposed. Like that's why. I'm
But
like, that's insane.
Peter is like he just looks like a maniac. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so he's turned evil as well, like Norman.
Yeah.
So, but then the rest of the issue, this is also where I felt ripped off. Is it's a bunch of short stories, which
Mhm.
I kind of skimmed through them. I have to admit, I kind of was like tired, and I just want one story every comic. If I'm paying $10, just give me a full. Give me more chunky Ed
Really,
McGuinness.
I'm the total opposite because I didn't
Really?
care about the main story. I loved all these short little
Did
backup
you?
self-contained stories because the hook is that they're bringing back people who had worked on Spider-Man in the past. So
Yeah.
like Terry Dodson and Rachel, his wife, like they do
That was
the art
beautiful.
for Black
That
Cat.
that that reminded me of the Kevin Smith run he did with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's
and
what
it
that's what I was like, oh, I remember this wizard cover with this
yeah.
style of black cat. And I was like, that now I'm connecting it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that one, but that was more a nostalgia trip, I think. I
Yeah, and
was
it
more
was
looking at,
written by Marv Wolfman, which was
yeah, which I thought was cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
This what do you think of the second one though about the donuts and the sandwich?
okay, that's the one I skipped. I had to, it was too that I don't like cheesy like stuff like that.
Well, this one was by the art was by this guy named Crisscross. I have heard
Yeah.
this name Crisscross, but I have zero understanding of what era he was drawing comics in, like, or I assume he still does, but like, but I didn't have any concept. So I was like, oh, I can finally find out what the style is. But I like this story because basically about this guy that Spidey says every time I do a good job stopping a bad guy, I stop at a food truck and buy the most delicious donuts in New York, and this guy's like, "Oh, I got my mom's medicine. I have to close down my food truck. Can you take her?" And Spidey offers to take the medicine to her. So he does. And then the mom's like, "You need to take a break. You work so hard saving the day. You saved us back in the day when my son was small." She's like, "Have a sandwich." And he's like, "What? I got to get out of here." No, sit, have a sandwich. And then she asks him, "How did you feel while you were eating the sandwich?" He's like, "It was like the world stopped." She's like, "Yeah, that's what food could do. It creates a moment, and you
Yeah.
deserve a moment." And it was sweet in that way. Like I liked the sentimentality of it all because she's like, "You can come back and I'll teach you how to cook, and we'll do." And so it's like now he's got an appointment with this old lady to take a break from the stress of being a superhero. It's like it's kind of fun.
It sounds wonderful. It sounds beautiful. It's just not my cup of tea. That's all it is. I
Yeah.
have to, yeah. No.
How about the last one? What did you think?
Oh, I think I skipped it completely because I was like, I'm
Oh,
tired. I need to get the Blood Hunt too.
this one was total comedy and like super like cartoony style.
That's why I skipped it. That
Yeah,
I was like, Adam will cover this.
Lee Gatlin again is a name I don't know. So it starts out as a Spidey story, but really it's about the Thing. And it's funny because Spider-Man is like swinging through this dark night, and then he sees this building and he's coming in, and now the lights go out. And he's like, "What? Who's in there?" And he sees a shadow that looks like the Rhino. So he breaks in, he webs everything in the room, and then the lights turn on, and it's all the other superheroes throwing him a surprise birthday party. And he's like, "Oh, a Thing, I thought you were the Rhino. You're a big gruff guy with a point on your head and all this stuff." So then it goes into the Thing like walking on the streets, and the Yancey Street gang harass him, I think, and then he ends up in concrete so that he does look like the Rhino. And then Spider-Man shows up. He's like, "Wait, who's the Rhino here? Let me ask some questions," and he's like, he's like, he turns to the Rhino. He's like, "If you're the Thing, really, say your famous catchphrase." And he goes, "Suffer and succotash." He's like, "I say that sometimes." Anyway, so it's just really silly and stupid, but I got a kick out of it just for the goofiness of it. Oh, and that actually isn't the last one. I forgot. There is one more here. Let's see if this was anybody of note. Oh yeah, because it was written by Joe Kelly,
Yes. Okay.
where he
Yeah. Yeah.
meets with Doctor Strange. What'd you think about that?
What happens in it? I may have skipped the last two. Adam, I have to admit. What?
Well, there was a lot to flip through. So Spider-Man is covered in Nordheim demons. Is that what they're
Oh yeah,
calling
yeah,
them?
yeah.
Yeah.
I looked at the pictures. It was a no. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a nothing story. The joke is basically like he's got all these demons, but he shows up and Doctor Strange keeps saying it's really a bad time. It's not a good time. He's like, "Come on, Doc, you can help me out." And then you see
That's where
Doctor
I
Strange.
dropped out.
Oh,
That is the moment I was like, I am not reading this.
Spider-Man would give him a break. You think he'd be more understanding?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but basically, like Doctor Strange, you see he's been in a battle and he's all cut up and he's all bandaged up and he's got some infection from another universe, another dimension on his arm. And so Spidey is basically like, because Doctor Strange does his little incantation, takes off these demons that were chewing on Spider-Man, and then he kind of just gives him a break. He gives him a little levity, and Doctor Strange appreciates that. But then as he's leaving, Doctor Strange is screaming in pain because he's like doing all these terrible things to himself to heal himself. And I was just like, "Oh, okay." I will say, probably my favorite part of the issue was this ad.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this and I didn't know the release date. I didn't like go Google it. Now I know in July we get Rain 2 by Carr Andrews. I'm looking for, and Spider-Man has a giant beard. Like I really want to see where he's going with this because the first one was nuts. So,
Oh, well, I have to say I didn't really care for the other two, but I ended up reading two more that I really did enjoy.
oh,
I read Rook 2, which is just a cool continuation. The world they've created is awesome.
what's the like, the elevator pitch for Rook? What's the setup?
So they're on a so I think it's the future. At some point, humans move to this planet. Not all humans, a bunch of humans move to this planet where they've created like a world machine to allow it to be livable. But the machine breaks and the world is no longer livable, and most humans have taken off and deserted the planet called Exodus. The planet's called Exodus. There's this guy Rook. He has this helmet that allows him to like communicate with birds, and other people have these helmets as well. And he's trying to get off the planet. He's been building it with his friend Swine, who's like a pig guy. And that's kind of the elevator pitch, is them trying to get off the planet at this
Okay.
point. But there's other people with these, it turns out, with these helmets that are like stopping them, not wanting them to leave. You kind of find out in issue 2. You're a little bit more story reveals in issue 2.
Okay.
It's the art by Fabok is insane. Like it's really good. I read that, and then Alan Scott Green Lantern issue 6, which was the finale, is very, very good.
And you know the artist on that, right?
No, I know the writer
Oh, the
on that.
writer. Okay.
And yeah, Tim Sheridan, and he really sticks the landing. It is such a good, touching story. I highly recommend people just pick up the trade or go back and get all 6 issues.
Well, you say it's a touching story. Does Alan Scott get a donut or a sandwich by
Yeah, he gets a donut in the end. That's how it ends. It's just like Spider-Man. It's a very sweet story.
all heartfelt stories are told over donuts. That's what we're learning. Oh, well, I
Anyways,
got to
yeah.
the side of this, kind of the side effect that's happened by going to the comic shop every week now. I'm bringing my 5-year-old along with me, so
Oh,
he's getting excited about comics, and he loves Sonic the Hedgehog. They always have the kids corner over there, so he got a couple issues at a book fair that his older siblings were having, and he got to come along, bought 2 issues of Sonic. So now he's buying all the Sonic comics every time we go. He gets one to bring home, and as we were walking out this time, he's like, I love comics. So
that's
it begins
awesome.
here. So that's great.
Oh, that's, I was like probably 2 or 3 when my dad was dragging me to a comic shop, and that's how it starts. My kids hate going to the comic shop now, Adam. I've been taking them since they were like infants, and they don't like it. They're sick of it, I think. So,
Got to get some YouTubers to make some appearances at the comic shop. All
no,
right. Well,
YouTube is not allowed in our house except this show. This is the only show allowed on.
yes. Yeah, I know. And that is what
Anyways.
my 5-year-old says too. He's like, Dad, you're my favorite YouTuber. What a guy, this kid. Anyway, so yeah, so this time it was Marvel. I'm very curious to see where this goes next week. Again, are we going to pick what we want to read, or are we just going to stack the votes with only things we know we want to read so we won't be
Yes.
disappointed? Not the
Adam,
big issue for the week.
you pick which 2 you want to read, and I'll pick 2, and then we'll see if they only pick yours or only mine or one of each.
We'll see which one of us has the best taste.
Yes.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you everybody for checking out our Wednesday Rewind review. As we said, we will be back, but of course you want to stay connected with us. So find us on social media at Wizards Comics or on Instagram at Wizards_Comics. The voting takes place on X and on Threads. And also, if you want to be part of our Facebook group, you can ask to join over there. We also put the vote in there. So those are kind of like our 3 groups that are really contributing to this. So make sure that you find us also wizardscomics.com, where you can find over 270 episodes of our main podcast covering every issue of Wizard Magazine, behind the scenes interviews with staff members and comic book professionals. We have some fun ones coming up here, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. But hey, until next time, keep your books bagged and boarded.